Chapter 4, Gatria had to stare at the man who called her sword goddess for a long second before something clicked in her mind and she finally recognized him. Gatria didn't know if her memory serves her right, but there's only one being she knew who possessed such a gorgeous face with golden eyes. Drago, the man leaned back on his seat while a pleased smile was plastered on his lips. The one and only, so it is you, Drago chuckled. I'm glad you still remember me, sword goddess. It had been so long. Yeah. It had been so long since I lost to you. Gatria glared at Drago. Let's go outside and have a duel. I will defeat you this time. Drago looked at Gatria, clearly amused. Am I still the only one who defeated you in sword fighting, sword goddess? HMP, as if someone could best me. I did. Gatria glared at Drago again. That's why we should cross blades again. Come on, let's go outside of town and have a duel. I'll cut you to pieces this time. Drago laughed at Gatria's angry face. Take it easy, sword goddess. I'm not here to fight, but to get information. Gatria eased up and went back to eating. What kind of information are you looking for? Though I don't think I'll be much of a help. I was imprisoned for nearly 2 centuries and just escaped recently. Drago was silent for a long while before he spoke, so it was true, the humans really did that to you. Are you living under a rock that you didn't know? Gatria finished her meal and looked at Drago, and she was taken aback by the emotion she saw in his handsome face. Don't spread your murderous aura in here. If you're angry, want to fight outside. Drago didn't reply. He just stared at Gatria until he felt something wrap around Gatria, a shield he was familiar with. He's here too. Gatria looked at Trevin, who's still sharing the table with the half-demon, but Trevin's attention was on their table. Are you okay? Trevin mouthed. Gatria nodded and returned her attention to Drago, who was still looking at Trevin. What's with the murderous aura anyway? Drago returned her attention to Gatria. Can't I be angry for you? Gatria stilled for a moment before she changed the subject. She didn't really want to talk about it. So what kind of information are you looking for? Drago knew Gatria was changing the subject, so he went along with her. For centuries, our home has been far away from humans. We prefer to keep to ourselves since we're a problematic bunch who goes to war against our own kind for petty reasons. But recently, humans had been trespassing on our domain and hunting the young ones. The Dragon King sent his best warrior, me, to investigate. I'd been roaming around for a few weeks now, and that's when I learned about what happened to you and your kingdom. I didn't believe it at first because I know how strong your kinds are, but hearing it from you, Drago heaved a deep sigh. If only I checked on you. I am not your responsibility, Drago. Gatria didn't want to make others feel bad because of what happened to her and her kingdom. If blame would be thrown, it was her fault, not anybody else's. Anyway, how's your information gathering? Found anything useful? Drago sighed. It's been weeks, but I haven't found anything yet. I still don't know what those humans wanted from us. The only thing I know from the human I talked to is that my kinds were taken to Faberian and Ager. Faberian had been destroyed before I could gather information, so I'm planning to go to the capital of Tretera, Ager. Suddenly, Trevin appeared beside their table. Want to travel with us then? We're going to Ager too. Egatria had her elbow on the table, propping up her chin as she looked up at Trevin. What happened to your half-demon? He left. Gatria let out a small laugh, but to Trevin it sounded like a mocking laugh, so he glared at Gatria. You still haven't found a partner yet? Drago joined in the conversation. Trevin glared at Drago. So what? I'm picky. How about you? Drago stole a quick glance at Gatria before he answered. No partner for me as well. The one I adore is already taken. Anyway, Drago cleared his throat. You mentioned traveling to Ager. If you don't mind, I'll tag along. We don't? Trevin quickly replied, not even taking Gatria's opinion before making a decision. The more strong travel companions we have, the less I'll be worried. Gatria sighed and shook her head before she looked at Drago to ask, "Are you sure about traveling with us? Our pace is slow because we have to travel on foot." On foot. Drago frowned and looked at Trevin. Something happened to Vago. Vago, the wyvern, was previously owned by Drago when he was still roaming around Azatura, looking for strong individuals to fight. He gave it to Trevin after he decided to return home since Vago would only be eaten by his kind. Vago is fine, but Trevin glowered at Gatria. The mistress of nature here wanted to ascertain the condition of the soil, the trees, the foliage, the forest, and every vegetation she could find, so our pace is very slow. I'd been complaining, but she always turns a deaf ear. Gatria smiled at Trevin so sweetly. To show my appreciation with your constant complaining, I promise to take my time and enjoy nature leisurely from now on. Gatria. Trevin sat on the vacant chair next to Gatria. How could you be so mean? I just got my heart broken a minute ago. Gatria just shrugged indifferently at Trevin before her gaze returned to Drago. Well, still interested in traveling with us? Traveling alone is unpleasant. Drago smiled and his golden eyes glistened, making his handsome face even more attractive and charming. Count me in, yes. Trevin even punched in the air. With Drago, I don't have to worry a thing even if we encountered someone with moonlight stone. What's a moonlight stone? No one answered Drago, so he didn't pursue the topic. Seeing how the sword goddess flinched, it might be a sensitive topic for her, so he decided to let the topic go. Anyway, we should go find an inn. After a few seconds, Gatria spoke, I want to rest. We still have to wait for Grath before we leave for Ager. That means we still have a few days to enjoy Ashmire. I think there's still a vacant room in the inn I'm staying at. Dragon informed the two. Why don't you stay there? All right, let's go. Egatria stood up and left the tavern without putting back the hood of her cloak to enjoy the town's breeze. Unlike Solal, who had an eye-catching bright red hair and eyes that was uncanny in Azatura, Gatria's hair color was brown. Some humans had the same hair color, so she was free to roam around without worry that she might attract attention. After a short time, Gatria, Drago, and Trevin arrived at the inn Drago was staying. After Trevin paid for 2 rooms with bath and food, Gatria immediately went to her room to rest. While lying down on the bed, she stared at the ceiling and the thought Drago entered her mind. Drago defeated her in sword skill, and until that very moment, she still hadn't forgotten her defeat that she'd been wanting to have a rematch with him ever since. But he disappeared without a trace. And now, the full-blooded dragon who defeated her was back. Though she knew that Drago was a dragon, she hadn't seen him in his dragon form. He was always in his humanoid form when facing her. Gatria was actually curious about the identity of the man who defeated her fair and square, and her hands were also itching in anticipation of their next duel. Gatria blows a loud breath before she raised her hand over her face to stare at her ring. It was an enchanted item given to her by King Turak. It was not really a ring, but sort of a storage. It could store anything, and if it's food, it wouldn't go bad since the ring had the ability to freeze time inside. Thought this kind of ring could only be made by the King of Druids. Others could only make a simple storage with limited space and no time freezing enchantment. Wrapping the ring with her essence, it slightly glowed as she summoned out one of the items inside. A flat crystal used for communication and was made from athazurite stone. When it appeared in front of her face, she wrapped her hand around it and tapped its flat surface while saying the Mistress of Flame's name. In a few breaths, the crystal glowed and Solol's name flashed inside the crystal, and then she heard Solol's voice coming from it. Gatria? Hearing Solol's voice, Gatria felt relieved. Yes, it's me. How are you and your travel? Solol blows a loud breath. We have too many stopovers since Hakken had to stop at other races' settlements on the way and invite them to a drow. And he doesn't seem to get tired of introducing me to everyone, which I enjoy because that only meant one thing. Hakken is mine, and no one will dare to take him away from me, the mistress of flame. Egatria sighed, but a small smile was playing on her lips. Are you still far from Nail Archipelago? I think so. Hakken was planning to visit the Elven Kingdom, so it might take a while. Huh. Why is he visiting the sacred forest? I think it has something to do with gathering allies, Solol answered. Hakken is so adamant on getting more allies to our side, especially the non-humans. Hakken thinks that if the four of us finally got out of prison, the humans will wage war against us. Oh, Gatria's face darkened. Fine with me. That was my answer to Hakken too, but he said that there might be someone pulling the strings behind all this since humans are weak to begin with. He said that as long as we don't know the origin of the Moonlight Stone, we shouldn't act rashly. That was her thoughts as well when she finds out about the Moonlight Stone, that someone might be behind all this. But who? Gatria let out a loud breath. Tell Hakken I'll do what I can as well on my end. Okay, Solol chirped. Anyway, I'll contact you if we found something useful. Same. Okay, bye, Gatria. Gatria smiled at Solol's cheery tone. Goodbye, Solol. Take care. I will. A second later, the crystals stopped glowing the same moment Solol's voice disappeared. Putting back the communication crystal inside her ring, Gatria draws a breath and closed her eyes to rest. She'd been using her essence to give nutrients to the soil, to the forest, and to every vegetation that needed her essence. She felt drained that it didn't even take a while for her to succumb into deep slumber. Night already fell, but Gatria was still inside her room asleep. As a result, Trevin had to eat dinner alone. He was hoping Drago would accompany him, but the bastard was also asleep, hence he was now in the inn's tavern, eating alone. Trevin declared to himself that it was going to be a boring night as he returned to his room after drinking booze after his meal, but it looked like the deities had other plans for him that night. There was a knock on his door. If it was Gatria, she would just barge in or call his name, so he hesitated if he'll open the door or not. After a short deliberation with himself, he went to open the door and was stunned to see who was outside. A gorgeous half-demon with a blindfold around his eyes. Trevin was lost for words because he was not expecting him. You, need anything? It was unlike him to stutter, but stutter he did. Zarek, the half-demon warlord, parted his lips, and with his voice that could make anyone strip and kneel, he spoke. I'm here to ask you something. May I? Trevin cleared his throat, hoping that his mind on the gutter would be cleared as well. Of course, come on in. Trevin didn't know if Zarek had no defense mechanism or if he just didn't really see Trevin as anyone who would do something to him because Zarek entered his room without hesitation. Or maybe I'm just too weak that he doesn't see me as a threat. Yeah, that's about it, Trevin thought, and then he thought of something more heart-wrenching reason. Maybe Zarek just doesn't see me as a romantic partner. Yeah. He's so innocent and upright after all. So, Trevin sat on the edge of his bed while Zarek took the chair in the corner of the room. What is it that you want to ask? Wait, before that, could you tell me how you found me? As far as he knew, he didn't tell anyone where he was staying. I smelled you. Trevin froze before he subtly sniffed himself to check what he smelled like. Please, self, be a good-smelling warlord. May I ask how I smell like? Woody, spicy, delicious. The answer was given coldly that Trevin didn't feel even a tinge of happiness even though Zerk just told him he smelled delicious. When Zerk didn't hear a reply from Trevin, he explained further. A demons could smell one's soul. I'm only half, but I also have the same ability. So my soul smells woody, spicy, and delicious? Trevin frowned at that. Why the hell does my soul smells like woody and spicy? I get the delicious because I am indeed a delectable piece of morsel and spicy because I'm hot but woody. What am I? An old man? Wait, this must be Gatria's fault since she's the mistress of nature and all. Zerk didn't know what Trevin was talking about, but he understood one thing. When you touched me earlier, you don't appear to be hot, or has your temperature risen tonight? Trevin blinked at Zerk. He was confused as fuck until he realized that the man sitting on the chair was an innocent half-demon. Don't mind what I said, and my temperature is fine. Anyway, what do you want to ask? Zerk sat straight before he faced him. Trevin didn't even know how Zerk could tell where he was exactly when he had a blindfold around his eyes. When we first met, you said you're a warlord of Sappher, then may I ask if you knew Drew Imbert? Trevin became silent and his usual pleasant smile disappeared when he heard the name of Carr's father. Why are you looking for him? Zerk sensed a change in Trevin, but he still answered. My father chose eternal death a few months back after my mother passed away a decade ago. He told me to look for Drew Imbert in the kingdom of Tretera. He said Drew Imbert will take good care of me. If Zerk met Drew Imbert, he'll be surely used against the Ithers queens. An innocent warrior like Zerk will be easy to use. And if that happened, Hakarin will kill him for sure, Trevin thought as his mind worked double time to stop that from happening. I don't know if Drew Imbert already went through the arcane ritual of rebirth, Trevin answered honestly, but you can indeed find his son in the capital of Tretera, Ager. Though I will warn you if you went to their side, I'll be your enemy. Zerk stilled. Why? Because we have different beliefs. Trevin sighed. Do you really have to meet him? Yes, my father said so. Then want to travel with us. We're going to Ager too. Zerk frowned. I thought we'll be enemies if I met him. Maybe I can still change your mind while traveling. Trevin was hoping he could. Zerk was silent for a whole minute before he said something Trevin was not expecting him to say. Meeting him and sighting him are two different things. Your soul smells very pleasant and delicious. That means you're a very nice person. Therefore, if you were against him, then he's probably the bad one. But I can't just brush off my father's request. I have to honor my father's dying wish. Then travel with us, Trevin offered again. He didn't want this opportunity to slip. At least, if that man did something to you, I can protect you. Zerk looked down as if thinking hard before he raised his head and faced Trevin. Won't I be a burden in your travel? Definitely not, as fast as lighting, Trevin answered. Gatria is more of a burden than you. Gatria, is she your woman? Trevin looked at Zerk flatly before he let out an exasperated breath. How many times do I have to tell you that I like you? Not the innocent kind of like, but the kind that wants to hug, kiss, have sex, and do lots of dirty and nasty stuff with you. Zerk became silent again after a long while he spoke. I'm sorry, I don't feel the same way. Trevin blew a loud breath. Yes, I know, no need to rub it in. Anyway, have you decided? My companions wouldn't mind for sure since they're all boring anyway. Then, Zerk stood up and bowed his head. If it wouldn't be a burden and trouble to you and your companions, I would like to travel with you. Trevin knew he had no chance with Zerk whatsoever, but a happy smile still appeared on his lips. Then get ready. We're just waiting for one of our companions to arrive, then we'll be off. Trevin sighed as Zerk and his handsome face left his room. Now alone, Trevin elicited a groan. Why does he has to have a handsome face that's totally my type? Fuck it. Why am I a sucker for that demonic handsome face? A Trevin was groaning at how his travel with Gatria would become more torturous now that the half-demon he was smitten with will be traveling with them. Meanwhile, Zerk, who just stepped out of Trevin room, stopped and took a deep breath, as if wanting Trevin's woody, spicy, and delicious scent to fill his lungs. Smelling so delicious, Zerk thought of Trevin and his soul's scent, and he immediately felt his fang watering. I wonder if I could take a bite. CCLIBCC.